Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and it is time to do a September currently inked. And to say I'm excited is an understatement. I love to do a currently inked. I love to watch a currently inked. And if you're anything like me, please take a moment and subscribe so that you can be alerted to any other content that I put out. I do content related to fountain pens and inks, as well as planning and journaling / memory keeping. And I would love for you to join. So without further ado, we're going to get into this month's currently inked. The big theme is, and I apologize, pause with a pen or people who live outside of the United States, but I do have a number of inks from Birmingham Pen Company. I just got an order of some inks and I'm excited to try them out. So that's what you're gonna see. So the first pen that I'm going to ink, or that I have inked up, is again, and I think I've had this inked up since Christmas, but this is my Grail pen, so I am going to use it as much as possible. But the Pelikan M400 Sovereign in white tortoiseshell, and this has an extra fine 14 karat two-toned nib. And the Pelikan is known for being a very wet writer, so for me an extra fine is just perfect. It puts down a good amount of ink, and it actually took me a moment to get used to that, but now that I've gotten used to it, I am actually really enjoying pens that are a little bit wetter. So this is, like I said, the Pelikan M400 Sovereign with an extra fine nib, and this is inked up with Birmingham Pen Co. Distressed leather. And I really like this color. It's a golden brown. It's beautiful. So far I've really loved having kind of brownish colored inks in this. An exception to that I was remembering recently is I did have Van Diemen's, I think it's called Tiger Snake, which as I was flipping through my journal recently, I was reminded how much I loved that ink in this particular pen. So I may be in the next couple months purchasing a bottle of that. We'll see. Anyway, so this is my first pen. The next pen is my Esterbrook SD Sea Glass with silver trim, and this pen has a fine nib, and it is a stainless steel nib. And this is inked up with Birmingham Pen Co. Antique Sepia. Now I really like this ink because it starts out as a green, and then as it dries it becomes this kind of a pinky tan color. So I thought that specifically starting out as a green matched really well with this pen. I probably should have put it right next to it the moment it hit the paper because it was a pretty close match, but as it dries it gets a little bit more of that pinky tan and it's less matching with this pen, but I still think it's a really nice combination. My next one, and this pen I haven't written with in a while, so I was really happy to bring this back out, but this is a Lamy Studio. It's in the, I think it's called dark brown color. I don't think it was a particularly creative name. I think it's called dark brown, but it's this really dark brown shimmer pen. You can see a little of that is catching in the light here. It's a beautiful pen. It is a pop top, slide top, and this pen has, I believe, yes, it is a fine nib, but it's a German nib, so much like the Pelikan, it is a little bit wetter, but it's not, certainly not as wet as the Pelikan. So this is Lamy Studio with a fine nib, and this is inked up with another Birmingham pen company, and this is in sandstone. So I really loved, I've used sandstone before, and I used it in my Pelikan M400, and I was exceptionally tempted to ink up my Pelikan with that again, just because I loved it so much. But then I realized I wanted to try it in a different pen, so that's where I put it in the Lamy Studio, just to see if I also enjoyed it in that pen. I'm thinking I am going to. Next up is my Narwhal Nautilus in the new line called Voyage, which is different vacation spots around the world. And this particular one is called Tromso or Northern Lights. And it just has this beautiful opal pearl type of color with purple and teal and some black swirls with rose gold accent. And this has a fine nib. Narwhal does their own in-house nibs, and it is a steel nib. And this is inked up with Birmingham pen company Armadillo. And this ink starts off this purple color, and then as it dries, it gets a little bit more gray, but it has some lovely shading. And so because of that purple piece, I thought it was a great match for this pen. Now the next one is a pen that I received for my birthday from my husband and my son. So this is the Esterbrook SD in Petrified Forest with gold accents, and this pen has an extra fine nib. And my husband and my son not only picked out this pen for me, all on their own research, but they also picked out the accompanying ink with it. So this is Esterbrook SD Petrified Forest with an extra fine nib. And this ink is by Otto Hutt, and it's called Gold Dust. Now what I love about this, and I'm actually using this pen currently for my daily planning and my weekly memory keeping, is it has a wonderful distribution of shimmer throughout. Most times I find that with a shimmer, when I start writing, the shimmer is really prevalent, and then as I go through that writing session, by the last couple of sentences, there's really little to no shimmer in each of the words. But with this pen, I found that the shimmer is really nicely distributed. Did I say with this pen? If I did, I meant with this ink. And also with an extra fine nib, it does a really nice job of not getting clogged. And I don't know if that's the shimmer or if that's the pen. You know, as I get to know this pen more, I will figure that out. It does have a little bit less than half of the ink left in this cartridge converter. So I may consider re-inking this throughout the month just because I am enjoying this pen and ink combination so much. And I'm also really enjoying the Esterbrook with an extra fine steel nib. Next up, so I had mentioned that my, in another video, my Narwhal Galen Leather Co. collaboration pen, which is a rose gold demonstrator, had fallen on the floor at work and broke. So I did purchase a replacement. I had some mileage reimbursement from my old job and decided to take a part of that and put it towards replacing this this pen. So very much so appreciate that I was able to replace it. Now the one change that I made is I previously had this in a fine nib, and I went ahead and got a medium nib because I do have a couple of narwhals in my collection and all of them have a fine nib. So I wanted to try this out. So like I said, this is a narwhal and it's a Galen Leather Co. collaboration, and it's a rose gold demonstrator with a medium nib. And I had mentioned in a previous video that I wanted an ink that was black, and instead of going straight black as I was planning, I was thinking of doing Diatramentis document ink black. Document ink black. I also received the Atlas stationers and oopsies, goodness, Ferris Wheel Press collaboration Atlas iron ore, which I already did have a bottle of it, but I got another bottle for my birthday from some friends. So I really wanted to use that. And so I went ahead and inked it up in this demonstrator pen. I love this pen. I don't know that I necessarily see or feel much of a difference between the fine and the medium. Perhaps I will discover more of a difference throughout using it this month, but right now it seems pretty comparable to me. With the pen that I had that broke, it broke literally right here. So my husband's gonna help me with some pliers to see if we can remove, because in essence the nib unit is in the cap, but it's a pretty flush break. So it's either pliers or here we may have to gently crack the cap. And then I want to remove the nib unit from the other one, and that way I can swap it out. And perhaps be able, this is a rose gold, so I could place this medium nib on the Tromso and it would be a perfect fit. So looking on the bright side, that's going to be the option. And lastly, I do still want to use my Platinum Century 3776, which was also a birthday item. And I think the color of this is technically something like cerulean white or something along those lines. I'll look it up at some point, but it's white with gold, and this has a fine nib, and I hope I can spell this right. but this is inked up with Wearing Goal Mad Hatter, which is a really nice sagey green that has a little gray undertone to it. I did take the advice of some viewers and throw some washi tape on there. I have some with little gold foiled dots. This maybe has about 25% of the ink left in the ink cartridge converter. So this will be another one that I likely will refill, but I did want to continue using this, and I just really love this heart breathe hole here. It's so cute. Just makes me happy. So those are the 7 inks that I have inked up for the month of September. If anyone is interested, the ink that I used up here was Diamine Storm, which is from, I think it was the ink vent from 2021, I believe. I feel confident about that. So these are the inks that I'm using. The majority of them are fairly neutral in color, with Auto Hat being the outlier in that, and then Atlas Iron Ore as kind of a black substitute. The shimmer in this is not as prevalent as I remembered from the last time that I used it, but that could just be that I have to agitate the pen as I did fill it yesterday. So that would make sense. But those are my pens and inks for this month, and I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I am very excited to get into this month with my writing, writing with my pens and sending out some letters, and yeah, it's lovely to start September. That's to me, that just always feels like the start of something new. So likely because all the kids are going back to school, and when we were growing up, most of us went back to school in September. If you're from well, I shouldn't say most of us, really. That would be if you're from the Northeast in the United States. So I guess it's just really my demographic that is used to going back to school in September. But I'm rambling at this point. That's just me showing my joy out loud. So if you made it to the end, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I hope that you have a wonderful month of September with your pens and inks. If you are watching this because this is also a hobby that you enjoy. And if not, maybe you're really enjoying different fall scents or fall foods or something like that. So continuing to ramble. I'm just going to stop now. So thank you for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye.